Blessings, everyone, and salutations to my AFBC family. I am Apostle Dr. C. Spears, the overseer of God's Precious Design Ministries, and I want to welcome you to another segment of The Door is Open. So come on in and let's have a coffee break with God. Now, to have a coffee break, you must have coffee. But if you're not a coffee drinker, grab your special beverage and come on in and have a seat and lend an ear to what God has for you today. Now, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and click that notification bell so that you won't miss one segment of The Door is Open. And if you're returning, well, thank you. Thank you for coming in and giving God time through me to hear what He has me to share with you to enlighten us. Because at this stage in the game, we are definitely needing to be enlightened, okay? And of course, please don't judge the scarf on the hair, because when God calls you to do something, sometimes you don't have time to, doll it up. So this is me when God says, go and share my word this morning. I said, well, all righty, then that's what I'll do. All right, now, so we're going to just jump right on in, okay? We're going to be talking about David, and I'm just going to share the story. I'm going to tell you some details, point out some points to you. But if you want to read the whole entire story about David, start in 1 Samuel. That's when Samuel was called out to go and find the king that God wanted, not the king that the people wanted, okay? So remember, we're going to be speaking about David. And if you want to go and find out what the story about David, please go and read 1 Samuel, okay? Starting with chapter 1. All right? Okay, now, before I get started, let me go ahead and say, listen, I love when you let me know that you have seen the videos that the Father had me produce. So most definitely like and share, okay? Because we can't be stingy with God's word. And I love feedback. I do. I'm a human being. I enjoy hearing the testimonials. So by all means, feel free to leave a comment, okay? And let me know how the word of God is moving in your life, okay? All right, so let's get into it. David was born to Jesse. Jesse came out of the tribe of Judah. He was like the baby of the family, and I think that Jesse had about 8 or 9 kids. So he's probably the eighth son of Jesse, okay? So when Samuel was dispatched out by God to go find a king that was going to have his best interests at heart, have the kingdom's best interests at heart, David was out in the field because his dad was a herdsman. So when Samuel came to bless the new king, or choose the new king, David wasn't around. So he missed out on that. Now I'm going to stop right there. Because, see, he missed out on that. Just because he missed out on that, that means that what God had for him had been terminated. Just means he was out of pocket. See, there are things that God has for us, but we find ourselves out of pocket, not where we need to be. So we have to wait. It takes a little longer to get because we not quite where we need to be. Okay, but doesn't mean that what God has for you has been forfeited, or you don't no longer have the ability to obtain it. It just means that you just need another opportunity. and pay attention. So, okay. Israel, Goliath, which is from the Philistines, they were battling, kind of like what they do right now. Okay, when the Middle East gets in an uproar and the Philistines comes against the Jews, or those that are in Israel and they fight. Well, they've been doing this for a little while. This not nothing brand new under the sun. Okay, they've been fighting for Coon's age. All right, so in actuality, we won't get into that, but they're relatives. Relatives fight. They disagree. They've been doing this for a while. Read Samuel, you'll see. Been doing this for a while. So, okay. So, David was a scrawny. He probably was scrawny, young. What can you do? His brothers were stronger, probably more mature. And so they were soldiers. And David wanted to help, right? So God put him in another position and another opportunity to get him recognized. See, we have to be recognized. God validates us now. Okay? Man don't want to put us where we need to be. God sets us up to be recognized. You know what I'm saying? So here it is. He asked, could he be a soldier? He want to do something. What you gonna do, little scrawny boy? Well, you don't know what God can do through you, right? You could be scrawny. You could be, you have a speech impediment. You don't walk straight. You riding in a scooter. Whatever the case may be. God can use you. All right. So here comes David. Long story short, David was put in a position to slay or kill the giant Goliath with a slingshot and a rock. Now they had bows and arrows, their army. They had weaponry. Here come a kid with a slingshot and a rock. Now, that's when you say, now, that's Almighty God. That's what God does with us. You come to the battle with a slingshot and a rock and slay the old dragon, right? Who does that? God. You ain't mighty. You don't have no major titles. You ain't all that. You not wealthy. You not known. You're not a celebrity. You just come to the party with a slingshot and a rock, baby, and lay the dragon on his back. That's how God get the glory, because they looking at you like there is no way in God's green earth that should have ever happened. Now, you don't get your flowers then. Nobody comes and brings you roses. No one comes and celebrates you, because you know what? That had been a fluke and a oops, and you can't duplicate that. So here we go along, and the King Saul was having problems sleeping. Well, when you do dirt and you don't have God and you ain't listening to God, well, you may have problems sleeping sometimes, because what you doing keeps you up at night. So he was tormented man, because he was not listening to God. And even though he was a ruler of Israel, because, back then, Israel begged for a king, and they came up with Saul. But Saul was not a good king, and he did not rule over God's people with God in mind. Okay? So you can just imagine what he put Israel through, okay, being it all about him. And so he was tormented that night. And so here come little old David. He was a harpist, say a musician. And he played the harp for King Saul and began to assist Saul to sleep at night. God allowed that. Here we go again. An opportunity to be recognized. Okay? Those steps that we're taking now to get in position to do what God have us to do, right? God always going to give you a platform of some nature. Now, do you think that David was like, oh yeah, let me go out here and play for the king? No, because the king was brutal and he did some stuff. And so, there is some apprehension about going before someone that if he don't like you, has the ability to kill you. Okay? To say, throw him in prison because I don't like the way he played or whatever. So, of course, there was some apprehension. He may have had a little fear in his heart, but he did what he felt led to do. And that is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to do what we feel led to do, regardless on how we physically feel about it. If God have you to do something, yes, it's going to be uncomfortable because most things he asks us to do is outside of our comfort zone. So absolutely, you're going to feel some kind of way. Off the bubble in the jump. He's not going to ask you to do something that you can do on your own. Because how can he get the glory if you're doing something you can do on your own? People are not going to say, oh, that's God right there, because they're going to say, well, she could have done it on her own. That's something she could do anyway. Okay, but when you do something outside your bubble, outside your comfort zone, outside your ability to execute it on your own, then that's when God gets a little glimpse of sunshine on him. Because they're going to say, or you're going to say, only because of God. Only because of God. If it wasn't for God. If God didn't do X, Y, and Z. See? So God puts us in position not only to mature us, not only to grow us, not only to elevate us, but to bring sunshine to himself, honey. He wants people to see the person behind the scenes on this situation. Look, you don't grow a tree, a bush. You don't put a hair of grass in the earth. You don't make the sun shine. You don't make the moon glow. You don't put a twinkle in the sky at night. So why is it that everything that we do is supposed to only benefit and make people look at us? We're not important. God is. And every time he do something or put you in a position to do something, it is another opportunity for you, but also know for sure for the kingdom, okay? So here comes David. He played the harp. He's being recognized for the little boy that slayed the giant with a slingshot and a rock. And now you come in and soothe the king. Oh, honey, you in like Flynn. Now, what can I do for you? Now, David then grows up. He is in Saul's eye. He goes through the ranks, okay? And we don't go all into detail, but he goes through the ranks. He matures, he grows up, he gets more responsibility. And then one day, he even goes so far as to marry Saul's daughter. Okay, this is how much he in the family, honey. But I want to tell you right now, just because you in like Flynn today, don't mean you're going to be in like Flynn tomorrow. All right? Don't you ever put your guards down, and just because somebody is related to you, just because somebody is related to you by marriage or blood, just because you call them people family today, don't mean that they're going to be your family tomorrow. And it doesn't mean that the bloodline going to stop. Don't mean that the how you are unionized will stop and decease. No, what's going to happen is when you make choices to do what God tells you to do, there are going to be people in your camp that's not going to be rocking with you all the way to the finish line. It's going to be some people that's going to come out, watch the race, and then get tired of watching. It's going to be some people that's going to run with you for a short second and then say, I got something else to do. Then it's going to be some people that's going to be almost at the finish line, but they ain't got hot. They ain't got tired. It's been so long. I need to go home. I need a nap. And then it's going to be them people that's going to be at the finish line. And when you stumbling and you're dragging your foot behind you and you can't hardly make it, going to jump out the crowd and say, come on, cousin. Come on, sister. Come on, daughter. Come on, family member. We can do it. You have made it this far. Come on, baby. You can do it. See, you're going to have that all the way down the line, okay? You're going to experience all those situations all the way down the line. So here come David. He had married the daughter. He is laying in bed with the daughter because that's his wife. It's all good. Life is good. And then the scriptures say that Saul began to become jealous, envious of David. Why? You the king. How you gonna get envious of your, basically, son-in-law? Okay, that's doing everything you want him to do, making you look 100% good. Okay? That's like if he was a politician, you know, David was out here promoting Saul and whatever Saul wanted to do, and he was talking to the people and making sure that they understood that Saul had their best interest, even though Saul did not, okay? And you jealous of your promoter? How is that? He didn't have no more authority than what you had given him, okay? But for some reason, God allowed that, because you know what? David got comfortable, honey. He was lounging in a lap of luxury, all right? And God needed him to stay focused. You need to stay focused, stay sharp. The scriptures say, be vigilant and be sober, okay? Meaning, stay on your toes. Because the old dragon, the old serpent, the devil, which is man without Christ, is always lurking. This is always a situation you're going to have to deal with, boo. This is constant. You don't ever can get to a place where you just like, ooh, everything good, man, and I got a hedge of protection around my life, and ain't nothing else going to go wrong. No. Stay vigilant. Stay sober. Stay on your toes, honey, because he is always looking for an opportunity to pounce on you when you least expect it. So here is David. He's sleeping with his wife, which is the king's daughter. Sure, you wouldn't send no centurions, which are officers in those days, to my house to arrest me while I'm in the bed with your daughter. What could I have done? What offense could I have done? Because everything I have done, I did because you asked me to do it. So in what world did you decide to think that I had not your best interest at heart? Have I not proven myself to you? I've done everything you asked me to do, and now you want to come to my spot and blow it up? What? And then look at God. See, God is so good that even when the old serpent, even when the dragon would like to slay you, okay, he can't, because God then sent the brother, the son of the king, to come to the house and say, hey, wake up, David. My father is in an uproar. He feeling some kind of way, and he is sending the centurions to come apprehend you. And David is like, what? Come on now. You sleeping good. Oh, okay. And somebody bams on, boom, 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 boom. You wake up out your sleep. You discombobulated. You rubbing your eye. What's going on? And then he said, get up. You got to get up and leave. In the middle of the night? I ain't got time to pack a bag. No, you ain't got time to pack a bag. The old serpent is in an uproar. He's hunting your behind. And God said, get up and move. It's time to get up and move. You got to stick and move. And you saying, well, God, slow him down. You know, you talking about all the things that you have that makes this what you asking me to do impossible. There was a time in my life that God told me to pack a backpack, not luggage, backpack. Put in it what you can carry. I need for you to get up and leave your house. I said, that don't even make no sense. Okay? I didn't hear that clearly. Let's try it again. And he kept saying it until I got like this nervousness in my heart. It was like it was fluttering. My mouth got like cotton. It was dry. And and when I realized it, I was scared. And I'm talking to the Lord, but why? What's going on? What didn't happen? What? Look here. See, you ain't got to ask them questions. Asking no questions don't make no sense. Let me tell you why. Because at the end of the day, whatever it is popping off, while you asking questions, they're coming. And the main reason God needs you to move, you still sitting there, okay? So your question is finna get answered when they come and knocking at the damn door, all right? Listen to me. He told David, get up and move around. David had to get up in the middle of the night, kiss his bride, his wife. And I'm not real sure if they had children or not, but he had to kiss her and leave. He couldn't even go to his father's house. He had to leave and hide. That's how cold it was. This is how Saul was in such an uproar about David. I don't know if Saul got a glimpse of the fact that David was going to be his predecessor. I don't know. All we know is that had it in for David. Saul had it in for David. Now here David out here in the wilderness. The scriptures say David had 2 times to kill Saul. Once he was hiding in a cave, because see, this didn't stop then. Saul kept hunting David. Saul would feel remorseful. And it would seem like everything was cool and copacetic. Then all of a sudden, he wake up in an uproar about David. So David had to stay away from everything he knew. Because the old serpent, the old dragon, was in an uproar about what it is, not that what David was presently doing, but what David was going to do. Hear me out. He wasn't upset about what he was presently doing. He was distraught about what he was going to do. See, the old serpent ain't on your back and irritating your soul because what you have already done. He is upset and irritating your soul because he know you in position to do something else that's going to dismantle another piece of the kingdom he is trying to create on earth. And so he figured if he manipulate and agitate you enough, he can get you out of position so that when it's time for you to do that deed that's going to put another nail in his coffin or another link in the chain that's going to be wrapped around his neck shortly, you won't be there to get it. That's right. So here comes David. David is hiding in the cave. Saul comes in the cave, sniffing around looking for David. David cuts a piece of his cloth, Meaning I could have jabbed you 10 or 15 times in that cave. And all this foolishness would come to an end. You'd be no more hunting me. But, see, David held to the instructions to Israel, which was, one of them was, thou shalt not murder. See, so therefore, he couldn't murder Saul. See what I'm saying? Self-defense and murder is two different things. See, Saul had no idea that David was in the cave where he was. He walked right by him. That would have been considered murder. So therefore, David didn't do it. David let the man live, even though he was hunting him to kill him, to murder him. That's another lesson. See, just because somebody else is doing something, don't give you the right or the excuse to act out of order. You have to continue to be who God created you to be. Let them people get in trouble with God all by themselves. It say misery likes company because they don't want to take a butt whooping by themselves. But baby, dealing with me, if I'm not gonna take no whooping for nobody else, okay? I ain't did stuff for folks in the natural. I ain't took hits in the natural. I am not gonna take hits in the supernatural. We're not doing spiritual things. You gonna get a spiritual whooping all by yourself. I'm not gonna be your friend. I ain't gonna hold your hand. I'm so sorry. Okay? So David let him live. Then the next time, Saul was camped out, and David snuck in the camp and took something of his to let him know, I could have killed you then. You was asleep. And all your king horsemen and all that was asleep too. And everybody was watching your back. I could have killed you then. But no, I let you live. On top of that, that's not all David had to go through. David still couldn't go home. This went on for a little while, like a couple of years, that Saul felt some kind of way about David. Now, I believe that Saul had got wind that David was going to be the next king. Okay? And I believe that Saul had come unto the understanding that he had upset God and he was going to be dethroned. And so I guess he figured if he just get rid of David, that would extend his warranty. Because if you don't have no one to replace me with, then I get to stay here that much longer. But see, that's when you don't realize and understand the God you dealing with, okay? Like you mightier than God. Stop it already, okay? So here it is. David has to not only wander, but leave where he resided completely. He left and found himself being a herdsman for another person, a stranger, sleeping in, a barn, quarters that accommodations that he had not, he had become not too accustomed with anymore. Remember, he was married to Saul's daughter. He was living inside of the palace per se. He was sleeping on fine linen. So all that sleeping outside with the cattle were days that he hadn't done in a while. So you find yourself back outside tending to somebody else's wealth. Okay? And then while he's there, being a good shepherd, he is found out that he is from Israel or the house of Judah at some point. And the associates of his landlord or his boss was saying, hey, you got this man. How do we know that this man is not here to put a rock or a wedge into what we trying to do? After you've been loyal and showed your loyalty, now it's being questioned. But see, God didn't want David to get comfortable. See, Your circumstances you in right now is not your ending. Do not get comfortable. See, it's temporary. It's temporary. Don't get relaxed. David had to become king. So whatever steps that God was moving him to the White House. Okay? He was not to stay in the stables, baby. Don't get comfortable in the stables. You ain't dressed the stables up like it's somewhere for you to be for a while. God says this is temporary, honey. Wherever I have you, it's temporary. Stay focused on the White House. I'm taking you to the White House. I didn't lie. I'm taking you there. So don't get comfortable. And don't let people agitate you where I have you today. Just know you're there for a season and for a reason. And when the assignment is done and completed, I'm going to move you on to the White House. You are going to the White House. Okay? So don't get comfortable with the blue house, the red house, the purple house, orange house, whatever houses that you got to be in to get to the White House. Don't be content. I'm going to take that back. Be content where God have you, but be prepared to move around to where he say he going to take you. You supposed to go to the White House, you go into the White House. You might have to go through all these other colors to get to the White House, but the White House is the goal, baby. Stay focused on the goal. All right? Because see, eventually Saul died. And David was put in power. And he reigned for 40 years. Okay? He spent quite a chunk of time in the White House. Okay? And all that he acquired and all that he was allowed to accomplish and everything that he was allowed to enjoy. Going through the other colors was just him walking out his journey. Yes, some of them steps was hard. Some of them steps were difficult. Some of them steps he didn't understand. But at the end of the day, David did arrive to the White House. And he was allowed to enjoy being at the White House. Now we're going to stop right there because I'm not going to go into why he was there, what he did, and how he messed up. And we're not going to even discuss that. I want you to focus on the fact that David took steps to where he had to go. And all the steps weren't comfortable. And he was asked to do things that stepped him way out of his comfort zone. And while he was out there, he still had to be the man that God created him to be. He could not allow the circumstances to encourage him to step out of pocket and be somebody else. He had to continue to be who God created him to be. So, I want you to think about that. Take your coffee. Or whatever you're drinking. And understand, God has a reason for the season. And it may not be easy. But if he brought you to it, he'll bring you through it. Okay? And trust me, just like David, you'll have an awesome and grand testimony about how God did it anyway. Okay? Don't you allow the old serpent, the old dragon, to convince you to take things in your own hands. You don't have to. continue to just be obedient and do what God tells you to do when he tells you to do it. And know that when you do that, you shall reap whatever it is that God has for you. There's not a man on earth or an unclean spirit off the earth that can change the fact that you shall inherit whatever God promised you. I'm Apostle Dr. C. Spears, the overseer of God's Precious Design Ministries, and it has been an honor and a privilege to come for you today and share this word with you. As I always say, continue to walk in obedience, enjoy God's favor, but most importantly, if you have an ear to hear a word of the Lord.